Okay, good afternoon, everybody. It is May 20th, 2025, and some people in the comments section have been asking the question, is the U.S. headed for a recession? First off, I want to say thank you again to all the new subscribers, and if you like these videos, please subscribe and like, and don't forget to hit the bell button so that you know when there are new videos coming out. And for all the people commenting, again, thank you for the comments. I really appreciate them, and thank you for being civil. Most of you are quite polite, and that is also very much appreciated. But either way, on to the topic. Is the United States economy headed for recession? Um, this is an impossible question to answer, although I will do my best. The reason it's impossible to answer is that Trump makes major policy changes all the time. Now, there is a lot more that affects the United States economy than the whims of a president, but given that he is making huge policy changes vis-a-vis the tariff policy regularly and very erratically, uh, even if I made the world's most perfect prediction today, if I got absolutely every part of this analysis perfectly right, I leave nothing out, it's entirely possible Trump does something tomorrow, next week, next month that completely invalidates everything I'm going to say. So with that warning in mind, let's dive in. The first thing I want to jump into is how is the American consumer doing? The American consumer represents about 70% of the American economy. So when you generally want to get an idea for how's the U.S. economy going, that's a pretty good spot to start. So let's start with consumer stress. Mortgage delinquencies are up slightly in quarter one of 2025 versus quarter two. It went from 0.7% to 0.86%. HELOC delinquencies are up a little bit more. They went from 0.53 to 0.87, so there was about 34 basis points. Auto loans are up about 16 basis points. Credit cards are up about 96, sorry, delinquencies are up 96 basis points. Student loans are up a whopping 721 basis points, and other forms of debt are up 23. So basically, the point of this is that the American consumer is increasingly unable to pay his or her debt. Now, overall, none of these numbers are crisis level. These numbers are not particularly bad, but they are all moving in the wrong direction. This indicates the American consumer is under stress, and his or her purchasing power is declining, which is a recession indicator. Again, we're not there yet. The numbers aren't bad enough yet to start, freaking out or panicking, but we are moving in the wrong direction. Looking at employment data, the unemployment rate has been slowly but steadily rising. The number of jobless claims has been slowly but steadily rising. Again, it's still what I would think of as within the green zone, in my opinion. But nonetheless, it is trending the wrong way. Again, it's overall, the numbers are nothing to worry about per se, but they're headed in the wrong direction. Um, let's move on to housing. Housing is an area that I always tend to kind of look at to get an idea as to what's going on. And so I'm going to take some data here from Redfin, and here's what I'm going to note. Let's start with housing supply. The number of homes currently for sale from the United States is up 14.5%. The number of newly listed homes is up over 4%. The number of days on the market is up by 4. What all of this means is that we're having more and more supply. Usually this means prices are going to go down. Now the question then becomes what's happening with demand. Homes sold above price are decreasing. The number of homes with price drops is up to over 20%. That's 5 percentage points higher than it was last year. And the average sale to list price ratio is declining. So what we're seeing is demand is going down and supply is going up. Uh, Mortgage interest rates are back up above 7%. So putting all that together, the housing market is not looking great. It's not terrible or anything, but it's not looking great. And it is definitely trending toward too much supply and not enough demand. I would, again, this is opinion, I would say the housing market is stalling out right now. Now, depending on what area you're in, one area might be doing great, another area might be doing terrible. Nationwide, on average, looks like we're hitting stall speed. Will there be a 2008 style collapse? I don't think so. In 2008, over 50%, or about 50% of mortgages were called ARMs, adjustable rate mortgages, whereas now that's around like 5%. And all the crazy derivatives and CDOs and all this stuff would what there's a lot of things that made that collapse, and I'm going to really oversimplify here, but basically, because the interest rates on those adjustable rate mortgages could go up, and people could not then afford to pay their mortgages, and that led to defaults, which led to bond collapses and CDO collapses and all kinds of other types of things collapsing, that whole kind of house of cards caving in. We don't have that underlying collapsible base structure of adjustable rate mortgages at anywhere near the scale that we did back then. We were at like 1/10 the number. So while I think the housing market is in for a rough year, it does not collapse, does not appear to be on the table. Now, 3 months from now, something could change. I don't know. But as of today, May 20th, I would say bad year for housing, not a catastrophe or anything like that coming. Next point I wanted to get into. So, hold on. I've done employment, I've done consumer, and I've done housing. Okay. Supply chain disruptions. This is my fourth and final point. What initially happened leading up to the tariffs was American companies were importing extra goods to try to build up their inventories prior to Trump's tariffs taking effect. After they took effect, what they did was basically stop. Trade with China essentially collapsed. Trade was reduced with other countries, and so we had kind of an upward surge of inventory and then a downward collapse in inventory. Now that there has been the temporary pause of some of the tariffs, China tariffs are running 30 to 54%. Everyone else has at least a 10% base tariff. We're seeing a huge surge in container bookings are up like 275%. So basically, corporate America is buying everything it can and trying to import it as fast as they can to try to get ahead of another big tranche of tariffs coming into effect. So what this means is our supply chain is like an accordion that got pulled out and then squeezed in and is now getting pulled out again. A lot of weird stuff is going to happen. I don't know what products are going to be affected in which ways. We are definitely going to have some shortages. I don't think they're going to be that bad, but we are also going to deal with a situation in which companies are importing as much stuff as they can. They're paying a bunch of extra tariffs, and they're going to pay higher shipping costs since everybody's trying to import as much as they can, as fast as they can, which means you got to pay top dollar for shipping. I believe we are in the stage now of a deflationary goods environment where basically all that extra inventory they bought in January, February, and March, companies got to sell it. They need to turn that back into cash, or they're going to sell it a little bit cheaper. That is about to flip to an inflationary. Again, this is my opinion. This part now is opinion. I think that's going to flip to an inflationary cycle in sometime in the next couple of months, 2 to 4 months maybe, where companies say, okay, we brought in all this other stuff. We had to pay top dollar shipping. We had to pay all these extra tariffs. We got to start raising prices because we got to make back all these extra costs that we've incurred. Yes, I would say that we're probably looking at inflation. I would think, generally speaking, are we headed for recession this year? Quite possibly. The U.S. economy contracted in the first quarter. J.P. Morgan was just out saying that there's going to be a 50-50 shot at recession this year. There are plenty of signs indicating we're headed that way. I don't honestly know if we are. I think we are headed for a mild recession. I don't know that. That is an opinion. That is my best estimate. Okay, I hope that helps. I'm sorry if that was a little numbers intensive. Hopefully everyone, hey, worst case scenario, you can listen to it before you go to bed and it'll bore you to sleep. All right, again, if you liked the video, please hit subscribe. If you didn't like it, thank you for listening to me the whole way, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Bye-bye.